deal. So go ahead.
Yeah. So, so Kwame doesn't need to take a loan from anyone. So anyway, Kwame owned a property. Clients of mine were renting it, and they entered into a contract. My clients entered into a contract to buy this property from Kwame. Now, this property being a commercial real estate asset, we're not. My clients were not able to get the financing in time, so I talked to Kwame for him to actually be able to be not only the seller on the property but also become the mortgage lender on this property. So we put together a deal where he would be the first mortgage holder. He gave him a mortgage for 75% of the value of the property, which means there was still 25% equity on the loan. So if this client at any point defaulted and Kwame needed to close on this deal, there would still be 25% equity on the property, so that he could actually, recover not only his investment but any losses because of having to foreclose on this deal. And that usually, is what's involved in that is legal fees, title transfer fees, maintenance on the property while it's being sold, real estate fees, and 25%, 20 to 25% of equity usually covers all those deals. So, point that I'm trying to make is lending on mortgages is probably the most secured investment any investor will do, and the return on investment is much more generous than having your money sitting in a savings account or a money market account or any kind of account. So you can generate anywhere from 8 to 15%, depending on the type of lending that you do, whether it's a first lien or a second lien mortgage, depending on the risk of the deal and the type of property that you're lending on. So, needless to say, Kwame likes this type of investment, and he wanted to bring it on to you guys so that you know that there's an opportunity to make real good return on investment for those people who may have, as little as $100,000 to millions of dollars to invest. Do you have any questions?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people were confused with the whole initial setup of the deal, because some people said they looked it up. The initial setup because it kept changing. And can you talk to them how much money you can make if the person can't close out the deal that they initially set? Because I remember we had a first initial deal, then it changed
Right.
into something else, and it changed. So can you tell them how lucrative it could be and how the different deals change?
So usually what you do is you establish a term. Say you're going to give, it's just like the bank. The bank gives you a mortgage. It's a 30-year deal. When it comes to a private lender chooses their term. It could be a 1-year term. It could be a 3-year term. It could be a 5-year term, depending on how quickly you want to get your investment back. In the meantime, you're collecting interest on a monthly basis. Say if someone that has $100,000 wanted to invest it, say we're going to get 10% on that money. So at the end of the day, in a year's time, that person is going to recover $110,000. During the process, though, that person is collecting $800 on a monthly basis, $800 on a monthly basis coming into your bank account. So by the time you're done with the first year, you've actually have collected and returned $110,000. Now, when I say this is the best type of investment to actually have your money into, is because it's always protected by real estate, and real estate doesn't go down in value; it always goes up in value. And there's a lien that protects you there that says nobody can do anything to that property. You cannot sell, or the owners cannot sell that property unless that investment is paid back in full, and any interest owed at the time that the investment is terminated. So, like I said, you can make anywhere from 8% on a first lien mortgage to as much as 15% or 16% on a second lien mortgage. Kwame, this particular deal that we did for the first year, the buyers that bought this property, the whole idea was that they would actually transfer this mortgage into an institutional mortgage at the end of the first year. However, they were not ready to do that. So we had to renew that deal, and we renewed it on a short-term basis. We did 3 months deal at a time. And in one occasion, he was collecting as much as 19% interest, return on interest on his money. So his investment was $500,000. So if he kept it up in 5 years, he would have actually doubled his money. So this could be a rather lucrative type of investment. And again, his money is still secured because his $500,000 are untouched. People cannot dispose of that property unless he gets paid in full. In the meantime, he's still collecting money.
I'm gonna drop the link at this point to see. Yeah, I tried to tell them. That's why I kept saying it changed. So they was like, "Oh, he's just throwing numbers out there." So can you explain to them, like in depth, why things change? Because they'll say that, because everything I said, I was telling them when the numbers change. I'm like, okay,
Right.
at this point, I was making this. I'm getting 10% back on my money, so it's like about $4,100 we were getting the interest payments to come up with the $50,000 in for that year. And then I know it was at 6 at one point, and then it was at 8. So it's
Yeah.
if people can't
So
pay, you
yeah,
still make
people
a lot of
can.
money.
Yeah, and this is what happens in real estate, right? So the particular situation with his clients is their credit wasn't where it needed to be in order for them to actually be approved for an institutional mortgage that would give them a better interest rate. Now, if their situation doesn't improve and they can't get an institutional mortgage, they have to renew on the private mortgage. The deal can change at any time because once the mortgage matured, it's open for re I guess reworking on the deal, and if the clients don't have $500,000 to pay for that mortgage in full, they still need the investor to be in place. The investor calls the shots and decides how much they're going to charge. And again, I mean, it could be, for clients that want to go into an institution to replace the private mortgage they may have. It could be income, it could be credit, it could be if it's a commercial property, they don't have enough renters. So it could be a series of things that could go wrong with that deal, and people are not able to get approved for an institutional mortgage, and they have to continue on the private lending kind of field. And again, every time the deal has to renew, then it's a brand new deal. It's up for renegotiation, and if the client needs the mortgage in place, they're subject to having to pay what the investor chooses to charge them.
And I put the link in the chat for people that have questions, but especially when they're making a lot of money at a property, but they can't get their credit score together and they have a lot of sweat equity into the property, people don't want to
That's right.
lose their property. So they'll come up with the money before they can come up with the credit score.
Yeah, and that's the situation. So sometimes the challenge is going to be not that the clients are unwilling to pay off the mortgage; they just don't have the ability to for whatever reason, right? And again, in this situation, Kwame's never made less than 10% on return on his investment. So, you know, uh, I feel sorry for the
And
clients.
we're well past when we said we was gonna close the deal. So it's
Right.
and that's what I was telling people. Sometimes it's in your favor for the deal not to get closed in a
Not
timely
to
manner.
close because you get to renegotiate, you get to actually call the shots and decide. Well, I was charging 10%, I need to charge 12%, and well, they're not ready to close yet, so we'll go up to 15%. And if the clients really need the money, then they're gonna pay you whatever you ask them. Now, if they say, well, we can't afford it, you take the property back, you sell it, and you profit whatever benefits. In this case, the property is worth a lot more than what the buyers originally bought it for. So if Kwame was to say, well, I won't renew on your mortgage and we need to foreclose on this deal, the property might sit 6 months on the market until the next buyer buys it because it's a unique type of property. But when he sells it, he's going to profit. He's definitely going to take his return back. He's going to get his investment back, his interest that he was supposed to get paid, and potentially more. Right, and that's and this is not only open to commercial. This is open to residential. There's a lot of there's a lot of people out there who make a lot of money who don't have the ability to get institutional money, and this happens a lot in the undocumented type of situation. People own big businesses, they make a lot of money, they will never get approved by the bank because just don't have the documents in place. Right, in that situation, we go to a buyer and say, you want to buy this beautiful home, it's going to cost you $400,000, pay $100,000 down, and we'll finance you the other $300,000 at 10%. So you have secured $300,000 on a $400,000 asset, and you're guaranteed 10% on a yearly basis. And of course, that gets broken into 12 different payments. And so on a monthly basis, you're collecting so much interest. And if you say, well, in a year's time, we'll renew this deal, it's reopen for reworking the interest rate. If at that point the investor has the choice of continue to charge the same interest rate or charging a different interest rate. You could secure a deal for 5 years. You can secure a deal for 10 years. If you know that you're not going to need your $300,000, but you rather make 10% return over the next 3 to 5 years, then you do a 5-year term, and you don't have to worry about it. All you have to do is make sure that you get your payments on time, and if at any point in time your payments stop, then you can always foreclose on that property and sell it for a profit.
Yeah, so what do you say to this person that says it doesn't sound guaranteed to me? Because in life, there's no guarantees. But if you're doing it with real estate, it's backed by something.
Well, the only way that, and again, I've been doing mortgages since 1997. I never had an investor lose money. Let's just put it that way. And that's 28 years of brokering mortgages. I never had a private investors lose a penny on mortgage investment. And like you're saying, I can never say it's not going to happen, but if I have $100,000 invested into a home, I'm going to lose my shirt before I actually lose my home. I'm going to do whatever it takes to make sure that I pay my mortgage before I do not. People need a place to live. People need a place to go to work. People need real estate. It's actually the best investment anybody can actually make, and they're going to fight tooth and nail to make sure they don't lose that investment, especially if they put 25% equity on the deal, right? Or more. So a lot of people will only need to borrow 50%. They have a $500,000 mortgage. They have $250,000 to pay down. So guess what? I'm going to try to make sure that I recover my $250,000 or my $100,000 or even $50,000, which becomes a lot of money, for a lot of people, before I actually, lose that money. So I'm going to do whatever, right, to make sure that I pay my mortgage and I recover my equity.
There's only one person in the back that I think they want to ask a question, but I think that's the person that says something disrespectful. So I don't think I want to let that person up there.
Well, and then different people have different opinions. If I work for a bank, I'm going to have a different opinion.
The white man squeeze game, helping them people. Trust me, I've been more than fair with his clients. Trust me.
And there's always going to be someone out there who feels that people are being taken advantage of. But in my opinion, if I'm going to, in this case with clients, with Kwame's borrowers, trust me, they're better off paying off the interest rate that lender decides to charge than losing, because they will lose a lot more if they were not paying 18% on that deal. And we've gone back and forth with this transaction. I mean, we've negotiated, different deals, and eventually they won't have to, and they're going to be much better off. This is private lending is usually temporary. It's not a thing that you're going to do for 30 years, because then it's going to put people in the ground and still paying for a mortgage. But this is, like I said, it could be a 1-year term, it could be a 3-year term, it could be a 5-year term. It's usually a short type of fix. Is not a forever thing. In the meantime, I mean, you can have the bank charge 7%, to the clients, or 10-12% for someone who just wouldn't qualify for a mortgage. And if that was my situation, if I had to pay 12% interest rate on a mortgage right now and have a place that I can call my own, why would I not do it if I have the ability to make the payments? Does that make sense? Hello? Do I still have
Makes a
everybody?
lot of sense to me. I'm
Yeah.
trying to answer the questions in the chat. So let's see. Any more questions in the chat? What term mortgage will this be most effective? He said, what term mortgage would this be most effective? This is the guy in the back. So
Uh,
maybe he's not trying to ask crazy questions.
yeah,
Hold
I mean, it really depends from the investor point of view, how long you're going to need them, whether you need that money or not. I mean, do I have different use that's going to generate me more than what the mortgage is going to generate me in 3 years, in 1 year, in 5 years? But if I'm comfortable making 10 or 12% of my money and I will not need my capital for 5 years, why would I not want to give the client a 5-year mortgage?
Yeah. Hey, you on the panel? The sour house, the sour hour.
Good morning. Good morning. Can anyone hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, we.
Okay. Good morning. Thanks for starting this platform on this Sunday morning. I want to say happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there.
Thank you.
I want to introduce myself. My name is James. I am a investor, real estate broker out of Virginia, with a few properties, and I found this panel very interesting. So I just had that question I threw out there. What mortgage rate or term would this be most effective?
Well, like I said, it really depends. It depends on the two parties. First, the borrower, how long do they need the money for it, and whether the investor is able to match the term that the borrower needs the money for. I just did a mortgage. I just brokered a mortgage for a client of mine that's flipping a property. He needs money for 6 months. So he bought the property for $275,000. He paid $100,000 of his own money, so he needed to borrow $175,000. He only needs the money for 6 months, and then he needed another $100,000 to improve on the property. So in total, he needed about 275. But whenever the property was complete, the property was going to be worth over $500,000. So the equity will always be protected, right?
Okay.
So it really depends on the need of the buyer and whether the borrower and whether the lender can actually match the term. And all deals are completely different. All deals are completely different. I have another client that's going to start building a home in 2 months. He's going to need about $300,000, but that property is going to be worth about 650 by the time he's done. So I have 50% equity to protect my $300,000. So it really depends. And a construction will take place, will take anywhere from 6 months to a year. So do I have $300,000 that I don't need for a year to give to this client? In the buyer, the construction person is willing to pay 10 to 12% on that money. Why would I not give it to them? Right. And there's other buyers that are just buying a home that cannot get financing, from a regular type of institution, and they want a 5-year term. Do I have $400,000 to give them a 10-12%? And I know my money is going to be there for 5 years. Hopefully, I won't need my money because I've already signed off on a deal that says that in 5 years, they have to make a decision if they want to sell the property or they can get different financing so I can recover my $500,000. So all different transactions are unique. It really depends on the buyer needs and whether the investor can actually match that. But on a private situation, the minimum you're going to make as an investor is going to be between 10 to 11 to 12%.
Okay. And another question. Is there a flat interest rate or do it fluctuate on the amount?
No, this is fixed. This is
That's nice.
fixed, and that's what we negotiated right at the beginning of the transaction. So this is, you say, Axel, I have $500,000 and I want to lend it at 10%. Place my money. I take your money. I go out to market and I said to a documented person that wants to buy a $600,000 home. So you give me $100,000 down. Here's $500,000 to go and buy your home. We'll give it to you at 10% for 3 years. Boom, done.
That's nice. That's nice. I'm very intrigued.
Yeah, and there's a ton of people doing it. A
Hold
lot
on,
of
Alex. We got a question in the chat. They said, "Is that a fixed rate?"
yes, rates are usually fixed.
Okay. All
And
right. I appreciate
sorry about that stinky bacon that someone's cooking.
Yeah, I appreciate you allowing me to join up on this.
Yeah,
This.
absolutely. I mean, this is a huge opportunity, and there's a lot of need out there. Like I said, this investor that I'm working with that's just flipping that home, like I said, it was an easy deal that was put together within a week. And banks don't do deals that quickly, and that's why private investing is probably the best avenue for someone that needs money quickly and cannot jump through hoops.
Gotcha. Now,
But
do you?
Paul is asking, is there a way that you can explain like the business model of it so people who may not understand can understand? Because I understand it. It took me a minute to get it, but like I said, when you own a property, it's kind of, I hate to say it, you kind of don't want people to be able to pay because
right,
you can keep renegotiating the deal.
right, exactly. It's kind of a bad thing, but I mean, it's a good thing if they're able to. It's kind of a bad thing because it's going to end up costing them a lot more than they originally started with. So basically, what you do is you have a piece of real estate and you have someone interested in buying that piece of real estate. You have a real estate asset and you have a buyer. In order for that buyer to be able to have that, to obtain that piece of real estate, they either have to have the money in full, and if they don't, they have to get a loan for the difference. So if my piece of real estate, if my home is say $500,000, and the buyer that wants to buy it only has 100 or it has 50, and they need $400,000 or 450, they usually go to the bank and try to qualify for that amount of money at a particular rate of interest so they can complete the purchase. Many times they cannot. This buyer still has the intention of buying that piece of real estate, but they do not qualify for traditional financing from a lending institution. That's where private money come into place. All we need to do is that the person has the ability to pay money, to pay the monthly payment, that they have the ability to actually maintain the property in good condition, that they're going to pay the taxes, the property is going to be insured, and that they have the ability to make the payment on a monthly basis at whatever interest rate the investor decides to charge. And then between the buyer and the investor, which is now going to be the bank, they're going to decide what interest rate the buyer's going to pay and the investor is going to collect. Once everybody is on agreement, the investor puts out the money, sends it to the attorney registers the buyer's name on title, but there is a lien that protects that investment. That lien basically says this property belongs to you as long as you pay me my money back. If you are not ready to pay me my money back, you
Listen,
cannot
that's the
dispose
part,
of that property.
not to cut you off, Alex. That's the part that I was trying to explain to them about my deal. But I
Right.
think I said guarantor instead of guarantee.
Right. So this
And
is
that's
this is the property is going to be the guarantee that you will get your money back, right? So because there is a lien on it that says that lien is protecting the investment. That person cannot dispose of that asset unless that lien is removed by paying back the loan amount in full. And so there's always going to be a legal part of it protecting that investment. It's not like when you invest in stocks, you put $100,000 hoping that you're going to get it back, but there is really no guarantee. With this, the guarantee is that you're going to get your money back because there is an actual asset that will not be destroyed. And if it's destroyed, the insurance company will rebuild it. If it catches up on fire, the insurance company will rebuild it. And you got to make sure, and that's why the importance of the deal is that property is always insured 100% of the time and taxes are paid on time. As long as those two items are met, your investment for the investor is always going to be protected.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's very simple. Very
And
simple,
you make money while other people are taking the risk. And
right?
as long as everybody do what they say they're gonna do, you know, you can be home chilling, making money and doing other things with your time to make more money.
With and I mean, just to give you an idea, Kwame in a year it has almost made over $100,000 on a $500,000 investment, right? And
That's
not
cap. At least Street Ventures has. That wasn't me.
yeah, that least 2 digits. Yes.
And this
So
works. Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry. And this
yeah,
works all over the United States.
yes, sir. I can put together deals all over the U.S.
Nice.
The challenge is it's easier for me to find the buyers and borrowers here in Georgia because I'm in Georgia. But if you have a buyer that wants to buy a home and they don't have the financing and you have the means to help them finance, I can broker the deal, put it together anywhere in the US
And
or
okay,
or
go
in
ahead.
Canada or in Canada.
That's great news.
Because people are looking for guarantees, and like I said, stocks are not guaranteed.
Stocks are
Bitcoin
not guaranteed.
guaranteed, nothing.
Even money market is not guaranteed. Well, money market gives you some kind of guarantee, but the most you're going to make on a money market is 4 or 5%. And that's what banks are doing. Banks are paying someone 4 or 5% on a money market, but they're lending it out on credit cards at 24 and 29%. So they're creaming. They're creaming this concept.
Get some kind of gain back. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's the thing with money market. You just got to keep flipping.
that's right. So this is definitely a great concept. What we need to do is we need to organize getting together with Kwame. Kwame can be the bridge for us to start doing some investing. If we need to have another chat, I'll be happy to join. If you guys have a particular
Or do you
scenario
want to
that
put?
you
Do
want to
you want
share,
to give them the information in the chat or email or something?
sure.
Yeah, you can give them an email so they don't bombard me.
Okay.
Go ahead. Somebody will be typing it down. Just go ahead and say it out.
It's Axel Garcia at axel@homesbyaxel.com. And my phone number is 404-641-9175.
And make sure that's not a number that they can aggravate you on every second.
Well, that's the only number I have. So
Oh, well, you'll be blocking a lot of people.
did everybody see that?
Yeah, they got that number. They got the number on there.
Okay.
They got it in the chat. But there are some stalkers on YouTube, so you'll have to block a few people. That's
Yeah,
okay.
no worries. So, but this is by far the best investment an investor can have. And like I said, because it's mortgages and we're dealing with, uh, a purchase that will cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. $10 investment won't cut it. Has to be at least 100 and above.
Okay, at least 100 and above, guys.
Yeah.
Somebody asked that question, what's the minimum amount? 100 and above.
Yeah.
Good to know. But if there's no other questions, we can go ahead and end this thing. I appreciate your time, Alex. We got one more person on the stage named KIP.
Yep.
Yes.
Go
Hello,
ahead, Kevin.
Kwame. How you do, sir?
Doing one.
I want to thank you for allowing me on your panel to speak to you,
Yeah, no
to your
worries.
listeners.
Thank you,
Sir,
Kwame.
I have a question here. Really like to, I hear what you're saying. I've been listening for a while, and I hear what you're saying. And I don't know what kind of listening audience Kwame has. I don't know if they're actual homeowners, or maybe have purchased homes in the past, or what have you. And I hear your opportunity that you're presenting to them. I mean, private investing has been around for a long time. It's not
Yep.
something new.
It's not new. Exactly.
It's not new at all. But my thing is this, because if you don't, I don't know, people looking to well, anytime you buy a piece of real estate, it's an investment. It's an investment whether you know it or not, because that
Right.
home would actually increase in value over time. So
Right. Exactly.
That's an investment. Now, I don't know what people in the audience are looking for, but I was hearing you, and I want to make sure I'm hearing you correctly. I got the part when you was talking about it's got to be a minimum of 100,000.
Okay.
I got that part. So what is the most that you would amortize that you loan out for as a
Well,
private investor?
ideally, what you want to do is you want to give out the money out on interest only, which means when you charge interest only, there is really no amortization unless you're planning to uh, charge interest and principal, right?
Okay.
The easiest thing to do is just create a term, whether it's a 1 year term, a 3 year term, or a 5 year term. You have $100,000. We find a buyer that needs $100,000, or we find three investors with $100,000 each because the buyer needs $300,000, right? And you determine, do we give you this money for a year? Do we give you this money for 3 years, 5 years, whatever the term is? And your money is going to be invested and you're going to get a return. You only need to amortize the deal if you're going to collect principal on that deal, which means at the end of the 5 years, if that's going to be a 5 year term, then you're not going to get the full $100,000 because some of the payment that you received included some of the principal. That it's a little bit complicated. That's how the banks lend. Private lending, it's easier if you don't amortize it. If you just do straight interest, you just collect interest for the term, and you know that at the end of the 5 years, those clients are still going to owe you the $100,000 or $500,000, whatever your initial investment was.
Okay. Okay, I got you. So at what rate? How would you come with your rate? What rate do you
Well,
loan this money out to?
private money is usually more expensive than conventional uh, bank money. Bank is lending between 6 and 7% because the buyer or the borrower does not have to jump through the hoops that the bank puts them through. Then the risk part is what makes your interest rate higher. Now we can go to a buyer or a borrower and say, we'll give you the money that you need, but it's going to cost you 10%. You don't have to provide me. You don't have to provide me with, your pay stubs and your tax returns and all of that because we're not a bank. What you need to do is provide me with your bank statements to show me that you make money, that you have the ability to make the payments, with okay credit to make sure that yes, you make your payments on time or that you somewhat are responsible. You need to show me that the property is going to be insured 100% of the time, and when I give you the money, that you pay the properties on time and you're going to keep that property in excellent condition, marketable condition. And as long as the borrower is able to meet all of those conditions, then the deal can be put together. And again, because of the market environment that we're in, where traditional banks are charging between 6 and 7%, I would say the risk it's anywhere from 3 to 5%, depending on the amount of money that you're lending, the type of property that you're lending on, where the property is located. So all of those things are taken into account to determine what the risk gap is going to be. Is it 3%? Is it 5%?
Okay. Now I did catch some things on the back end here when we was talking when you guys was mentioning about the just in case they default on the loan and things of that nature.
Yep.
Did you explain to the people how does that work? Is there a foreclosure process that takes place? Because I live here in Georgia, and have purchased a few properties here in Georgia. I
Right.
understand how the foreclosure procedure works and things of
Right.
that nature. I understand all that. Um, did you kind of touch base on that?
Yep.
Because I'm quite
Absolutely.
sure that I don't, like I said, I don't know what kind of listening audience he got. I'm quite sure there's
Hey,
probably people out
brother,
here.
can we not do that? Can we not keep coming at
Okay,
the listening audience? You can ask your questions without trying
all
to
right.
insult the whole audience because
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
learn at a
Yeah.
No,
different curve. And he
Yeah.
did say
Different,
oh,
this
different
information already.
situation.
So
Ah,
just
okay.
ask your
okay,
question and he can answer it.
So
okay,
here,
sir. All
here's
right,
what
Kwame.
happens.
Sorry about that, brother.
Yeah. So here's what
Go ahead.
happens. You could actually, or if you say you bought a home, you borrow from a traditional bank. The traditional bank will not foreclose on you unless you're 90 days behind on your mortgage, which means you have not been able to make your payments for at least 3 months in a row. Then the bank can actually foreclose on you, and they don't have to take you to court. They just have to file it with the court and say, I'm foreclosing on these guys because they haven't made the payment. But that gets
Correct.
established at the beginning of the contract, right? Now, because you're a private lender, you can say, if you get behind 60 days, I can foreclose on you because that's what your contract says, right?
All right.
So you determine what the terms of that loan is going to be. And I promise you, people that borrow money from private investors actually pay better than people that borrow from the bank, because the bank has certain leniencies built into their contract. I don't have to
Mm,
make my payments until the 15th of the month because I'm not late. But if you establish under contract that if you actually make your payment after the third of the month and then you're late, people will actually pay you better than they pay the bank. And like I said, in 27, 28 years that I have experience brokering mortgages, I've actually had more challenges with people that have borrowed from institutions than the people that have actually borrowed from my investors.
okay. Yeah. Okay. That was good. I wanted to, I'm glad you cleared it up because I understand that when you're doing private, investing and it's you and
The,
the
the
and the
terms are
borrower.
different. Yeah,
The
exactly.
bar, yeah,
You establish the
you
terms.
you you and the borrower are just basically, just two meetings of the mind. You guys can negotiate a contract how you see fit to negotiate that contract, and it can
Exactly.
become legal and binding. You
Exactly.
know.
Exactly. Because there's always going to be an attorney or the closing company or a title company involved in the transaction. It's not like that. So I'll give you $100,000. Hopefully you'll return. No, sorry. I got to register the lien against your property, and somebody who has the ability to actually register that lien against the property is going to protect my investment. Is going to have to do that. If that person doesn't agree to have an attorney involved or a title company involved, sorry, I'm not going to give you the money because then there is no security, and that's the way it goes.
Well, that's the only way you can take control of a property
Exactly,
when you do things
exactly,
like that. So
exactly.
so I understand that. So I get it. Um. Also, I know you did say as a I mean, do you guys do 100% financing? Being a private, when you're a private investor, do you do the 100% or how much
No,
percentage do you
never,
do?
never 100%. 80%
Okay,
will be the max.
okay. I'm
You need,
sorry. I'm
yeah,
quite sure. I'm quite
yeah.
sure you
There's
mentioned it
gotta be,
earlier, but I just got here late.
there's gotta be some skin on the game from the borrower, because if we need to foreclose on that property, we need to make sure that at least 20% equity buffer will cover any expenses for foreclosing.
Okay, I got you. All right, and that what you given would be an actual lien against the property.
Right.
Okay. Okay. Well, I do understand how liens works and stuff like that, and um, because property can't be sold unless that lien is taken care of first. So, okay,
Yep.
well,
So, yep. So everybody
I
has my information. If you guys have any questions, reach out and I'll be happy to connect with you and hopefully we can do some business together.
okay, my
Thank you.
friend. What's your name again? What's your name again? I didn't get your name. I apologize.
Axel, Axell. Last
Okay,
name is Garcia,
okay, Mr.
like the
Garcia.
guitarist. Yes.
Okay, all right, alrighty. Well, I
All right.
think
Thank you, Kwame.
I got some clarity
Yeah,
on that.
thank you, Kwame, for the opportunity. I think this is going to turn out to be good, and
No
we'll
problem,
continue to
brother.
work together. We'll continue to work together and make some money together.
All right, man. Thanks a lot. Thanks everybody hitting the panel.
All right.
Chat, I hope y'all learned something, man. And if you have any questions, just hit Ax on the back end and he'll be able to answer any of your questions.
All right.
And
Okay,
Good
Mr.
job.
Kwame, I thank you,
he gave
man.
out his real number and his real email. So I know it's gonna be some people from another sector because that's who they are as people. They always say people are scamming or whatever like this, but this is what this man do by trade. He gave you his real number, his real email. So please be respectful of this man's professional time and don't go over there with that N-word stuff. As you know how we can do, but be respectful of this man's time. He didn't have to give you his time. So
I appreciate
I
it, Kwame.
appreciate you again, Alex. And for the serious people who are inquiring about spending their money and not just on some YouTube stuff, please give them a call and feel free, and you might can secure some money for your kids' future.
Yeah,
Happy
awesome.
Father's Day to you all. I'm up out of this thing. I'm gone.
All right. Very good. Thank you, guys. Bye.
Thank you.